You guys won't believe what my neighbor did because of my lawn grass. What started as a simple complaint about grass height turned into the biggest humiliation he's ever experienced in his life. Stay until the end because the plot twist will drop your jaws. And don't forget to hit like if you believe arrogant people deserve a lesson. This story will show why we should never judge someone by their appearance. My name is Daniel, and I've been living in a quiet suburban neighborhood for about 3 years. I work in consulting and travel constantly for business, so sometimes I'm away from home for weeks at a time. I have a modest but well-maintained ranch-style house with a front yard that I always tried to keep neat. The problem is that my neighbor, who I'll call Mr. Peterson, decided I was the neighborhood's public enemy number one. Peterson had lived in the house next door for over 10 years and considered himself the unofficial HOA president of our street. Every single day, he would stand by his front window watching every neighbor's movement, always ready to complain about anything he deemed inappropriate for property values. And for some reason, he decided my grass was civilization's greatest threat. It all started on a Tuesday morning when I returned from a 2-week business trip to Chicago. My grass had grown a bit more than normal, I'll admit that, but nothing crazy. It was maybe 2 inches taller than the neighborhood standard. Before I could even grab my luggage from the car, Peterson was marching across his driveway toward me. "Listen here, buddy," he said with that condescending tone some people use when they think they own the world. "Your lawn looks like absolute garbage. This is a respectable neighborhood, not some trailer park. You've got 24 hours to get that mess fixed or I'm calling the city." I was caught off guard by his aggression, but tried to stay calm. I explained that I'd just gotten back from a business trip and would take care of the lawn over the weekend. But Peterson wasn't having any of it. "Weekend nothing. You're handling this today or I'll make sure you do," he shouted, actually pointing his finger at me like I was a child. Over the next few days, Peterson launched a full-scale harassment campaign. He started taking pictures of my lawn with his phone, measuring the grass height with an actual ruler, I'm not kidding, and standing in his driveway making loud comments to other neighbors about property values going down the drain. On Thursday, I came home from work to find a typed letter taped to my front door. "Your lawn continues to be a neighborhood disgrace. Final warning before I contact the authorities." The whole thing was in bold caps, like he was screaming through Microsoft Word. Friday morning, Peterson completely lost his mind. I was getting ready for work when I heard a lawnmower running outside. I looked out my bedroom window and couldn't believe my eyes. Peterson was actually on my property mowing my lawn without permission. I threw on some clothes and ran outside yelling, "What the hell do you think you're doing on my property?" "Somebody's got to do the job you refuse to do," he yelled back, not even stopping the mower. "If you can't be a responsible homeowner, I'll teach you how to." By this point, several neighbors had come outside to witness the spectacle. Peterson was eating up the attention, waving his arms dramatically while giving everyone a lecture about how I was a negligent property owner who was single-handedly destroying everyone's home values. "Look at this mess," he screamed, gesturing at my house like it was condemned. "People like this have no business owning property in a decent neighborhood. Probably can't even afford basic yard maintenance." The situation was getting completely out of hand. Peterson had actually called the police, claiming I was willfully neglecting my property and creating a public nuisance. When the officers showed up, he launched into this 10-minute rant about city ordinances and homeowner responsibilities. The cop, clearly annoyed at having his time wasted, said, "Sir, this is a civil matter between neighbors, not a police issue." But Peterson doubled down. "I know my rights as a homeowner. I'm going to file a complaint with the city. I'll get the homeowners association involved. People like him shouldn't be allowed to own property here." That's when I decided Peterson needed to learn exactly who he was messing with. I walked back to my car and pulled out my work credentials from my briefcase. "Mr. Peterson," I said calmly, walking back over, "before you make any more threats, you should probably know that I'm a certified code enforcement officer for the city, specializing in residential building violations and zoning compliance." Peterson's face went from red to completely white in about 2 seconds. Every neighbor within earshot went dead silent. "And since you're so concerned about city ordinances and property standards, let me share some interesting observations I've made about your property over the past 3 years. Peterson started stammering. I didn't know Look, I was just trying to. First, I said, walking toward his house, that deck you built last summer, no building permit on file. Second, your fence is actually encroaching about 18 inches onto city easement property. Third, you've got what appears to be an illegal rental unit in your converted garage. I opened my work tablet, yeah, I always have my inspection equipment with me, and started pulling up the digital records I'd been mentally cataloging about Peterson's property for months. Your electrical panel upgrade wasn't done to code. You've got unpermitted plumbing modifications that probably violate health department standards, and this is my personal favorite. It looks like you've been running an unlicensed short-term rental through that garage conversion without proper zoning approval. Peterson was literally shaking at this point. The neighbors were whispering, and some were actually laughing at the complete role reversal happening in front of them. Is there a way we could work this out? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Absolutely. We can work it out the same neighborly way you tried to work out my grass situation. I explained that technically I was obligated to file violation reports for everything I'd observed, which would result in thousands of dollars in fines, mandatory correction timelines, and potentially even a stop work order on his illegal rental. Peterson stood there in stunned silence for what felt like forever, finally realizing how completely he'd screwed himself over. Eventually, he walked over and actually apologized. I completely overreacted. I'm sorry. This won't happen again. Mr. Peterson, I said, this isn't just about overreacting. It's about basic human respect. You don't know anything about me, my life, my job, or my circumstances. You made assumptions about me based on 2 inches of grass and decided to treat me like garbage. Over the next few weeks, Peterson became the politest neighbor on the block. He even offered to maintain my lawn when I traveled for work, which I politely declined, obviously. Folks, this story teaches us a crucial lesson. Never underestimate people, and always treat others with basic decency no matter what assumptions you might make. You never know who you're dealing with or what kind of power they might have. If you enjoyed watching an arrogant neighbor get the reality check of a lifetime, smash that like button, subscribe for more stories of instant karma, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our content. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever dealt with a nightmare neighbor? How did you handle it? Remember, karma has a funny way of coming full circle, and sometimes the person you're messing with has exactly the right tools to put you in your place. Catch you in the next one.